In this video, I'm going to show you how to determine the ARV of a property. Not only am I going to show you how to determine the ARV, I'm going to show you how to do it for free in as little as 30 seconds. You need to be able to determine the ARV of a property quickly because on my very first property, if I wasn't able to determine the ARV in the first hour, I probably wouldn't be able to make $100,000 in my first year of real estate investing. If you're excited, go ahead and hit that like button for me. Now, back 3 years ago when I first started my real estate investing journey, I had a real estate agent send me over this property, and whenever I looked it up, it showed that it was pending a contract. I reached out to my real estate agent and I asked him, like, hey, why did you send me over this property whenever it was already under contract? And what he told me was, hey, it was under contract, but the buyer decided to back out of the deal. What this meant was about 80% of real estate investors that are looking at Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, they're seeing this property is under contract, so they're disregarding this property already. But what I know is this property is already back on the market. Knowing this information, I knew I had to act on this property quick before anyone else knew about the property. And within seconds, I knew this property was a killer deal. What I did next was I had my agent run over to the property, shoot some videos for me because I was buying this property out of state, and I made an offer right there. Long story short, we got the offer accepted because I offered over what they were asking for. Now in today's market, that might not seem crazy, but 3 years ago when you're offering over asking, that was not normal. You might be wondering why I offered over what they were asking for, and that's because I knew what the ARV is and I wanted to sweeten the deal for the seller. What I mean by this is they were asking $85,000 for this property. I offered $90,000 for this property, $5,000 over what they were asking. And I was able to do this because I knew the ARV of this property was $105,000. So I knew there was some wiggle room in between my offer and what they were asking for. We got the offer accepted and I doubled my money within 1 day. And what I mean by that is I was putting $15,000 down on the property. Now, again, the property was worth $105,000 and I bought it for $90,000. So that difference of $15,000 is pure profit for me. So I put $15,000 down and I already profited $15,000 down. I doubled my money. That's why it's so important to know the ARV of the properties, because if you know that there's a huge gap in what they're asking for and what the ARV is, you can offer what they're asking for so you can sweeten the deal to the seller. And two, you need to be able to determine the ARV quickly, because if I wasn't able to do this within an hour, realistically, it only took me a few seconds to figure out the ARV, and I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. But if I didn't know how to do that, people that were looking on Zillow, Trulia, and Redfin, they were going to be able to know this property was back on the market and they were going to be able to make offers themselves. This is how you're going to determine the ARV of the property, and there's 3 ways. The first way, but certainly not the fastest, is asking your agent to run comps. What comps are is comparables. So your subject property, the agents are going to be looking at properties that are comparable to that subject property. So if your subject property that you're buying has 3 beds, 2 baths, 1,500 square feet, they're going to be looking at properties that are 3 bed, 2 bed, 1,500 square feet, and everything else that goes along with it. So if it's a 1-car garage, if it has a pool, 1 stories or 2 stories, the year built, etc. Once they found all the properties that are comparable to your subject property, they're going to add them all up and then average them out. Here is what that means. If you have 3 properties that are similar to your subject property, and one sold for $100,000, one sold for $150,000, and the other sold for $125,000. And if you add those up and you do some quick calculations, it's gonna be $375,000. Now you're going to divide by the number of properties that you added up. So in this scenario, it's 3. You're getting $125,000. What this is telling you is whenever you go to buy the property, you can reasonably assume that if you were to buy it and then sell it a day later, you can reasonably assume that the property you are buying will sell for $125,000 all fixed up. The second way to do this is by doing it yourself, and that's going to Zillow, Trulia, and Redfin and finding out all the properties that are similar to your subject property and doing these calculations yourself. But the first way, that's all the real estate agent, and they're doing it all for you. Now this third way is definitely the fastest, definitely the easiest, and it's free like the other way. This way that I'm about to show you is what I do personally, and it's how I was able to double my money on the very first property. But before I do that, if you're wanting to create a life you love with real estate, hit that subscribe button down below and click the bell icon to get notified when I upload a new video just like this one, showing you the ins and outs of real estate. We're going to use a property that my real estate agent sent over to me, and all you need is the property's address, and it's kind of like a plug and play. All you have to do is plug in the property's address to a website called DealCheck. There's going to be a link to DealCheck in the description down below this video. Again, it's completely for free unless you want to know the property owner's information information. Then you can pay to get that information, but it's not necessarily if you're just wanting to do after repair value, if you're wanting to know how much cash flow the property is going to be producing. So we're going to hop into my computer right now, and I'm going to show you how to find the after repair value in a matter of seconds. Once you go to deal check, you're going to have to set up your account. Again, it's completely for free, and you're going to be presented with this screen, this rental properties. What you're going to do next is click on this add property. You're going to click on no, don't use a template, because all we're wanting to do is find out the ARV, and you're going to click on this import data. What you're going to do next is click on the street address. Once you import that data, and this address that I'm putting in here is something that my agent gave me, so we're going to actually see if the property that they sent me is a good deal. So you just have to put in the street address, city, state, zip code, etc., and you're going to hit search. What this is going to do, it's going to pull up the information from that property. It's going to pull up the beds, the baths, square footage, year built, etc., and then we can click on save. What now you're going to be able to see is how much can cash flow, cap rate, cash on cash return, etc., but we want to know the ARV. Next, you're going to click on this edit property in the top right. Click on it, and it's going to show you the after repair value, but this is the number we're going to want to look at, because I believe this is a Zestimate and it's just pulling from Zillow. What we want to do is we want to view recent sales comps. It shows you this property is worth $141,000, and it's doing this because it is averaging out these properties down here. And so what you can see is it's pulling all the comparables: 3 beds, 2 baths, 1,100 square feet, 3 beds, 2 baths, 1,100 square feet. It's literally, that's probably within the neighborhood of the property, and this property sold for $132,000 3 months ago, and this one is sold for less than a year ago. 3 beds, 2 baths, 1,100 square feet, year built 1982. So these are great comparable properties. And if we scroll back up, again, the ARV of this property is $141,000. This property is listed for $148,000. So if I was to buy this property, I'm paying over what the property is actually worth. That means my agent sent me a property that didn't meet my criteria, so I'm probably gonna have to have a talk with them. If you remember, I told you earlier in this video, I was able to find this property before anyone else knew the property was on the market. If that is something that you're interested in, there's gonna be a video popping up right here that shows you exactly how to do that. But until the next video, I'm out. See ya.